Hello there, Mark Cunningham here, and in this video we're going to have a look at how you can put conversion balances into Xero when you're converting to Xero from another bookkeeping system. The first thing we need to do for our conversion balances is pick a conversion date. So to do that, we just go into Accounting and Advanced, and then into Conversion Balances. And in here, we just need to click on this conversion date button at the top. And now what you need to do is you need to pick a month at which you're going to convert. So just like it says here, it says enter the date that you began processing all your transactions in Xero. It's easiest when you set your conversion date to be the start of a GST period. So that's an Australian thing, and it's not absolutely necessary. You don't have to pick the start of a GST period. But down here, what you need to do is pick a month and a year. So the year's pretty easy. You just choose the year that you're in at the moment. And then for the month, when you choose, say, April here, it says for this conversion date, you need to enter conversion balances, also known as opening balances, as at 31st of March. So that means we basically start using Xero from the 1st of April to do our accounts. And we need to bring over the balances from another system as at the 31st of March. So the bank balance and the accounts receivable and payable, inventory, etc. So if we change that, let's say we choose May, that changes the date there to the 30th of April that it's recommending. So that's always the last date of the month before the month that you choose up here. So I opened this particular Xero file in April. So I had the intention of actually using Xero from within April, which means, yes, I do need to bring in my conversion balances from my other system as at the 31st of March. So that's the date that I'll pick. So that's how you need to choose the date. There's also a link here that takes you to tips for choosing a conversion date. So if you're a bit confused and you need to read more about it, just go into Xero Help and see what you can find. So April is right for me, so I'll click on Save. And that's done. And now Xero has said to me that I need to enter my account balances as at the 31st of March 2019. Okay, next up we're going to have a look at how you can bring in the conversion balance of a bank account. So in my fake company Xero file here, if we go into Advanced and Conversion Balances, we don't actually have in this lesson. We're going to have a look at how the first thing I'm going to do is actually set up a bank account of your bank account. Go to Accounting and Bank Accounts. I'll just quickly set one up. So I'll just add bank account, and then for the purposes of this exercise, I'll just put anything in here. So I'll just choose A and Z. And I'll give it a name. So I've just called it the business bank account, and I'll choose the type. So it's just an everyday bank account. And then I just need to give it a BSB and account number. Okay, so I've just put some pretend information in there. I won't worry about these batch payments. I'll just continue on. And now we have a business bank account set up. So we won't worry about the bank feeds or anything at this point because I'm just showing you how to put the conversion balance in. So we'll go back to Advanced and Conversion Balances. And now we have the business bank account there. So what we need to do now is put the balance of the bank account in as at the 31st of March. So I'll just keep it simple and I'll just put $10,000 in, just like that. And you can see here that the total debits and the total credits don't match now, which is fine. It'll still let us save it. So that's that. So the business bank account now has a debit balance of $10,000 on the 31st of March. So what that means is that when we go back to our business bank account, you can see there now it's got a statement balance of $10,000. So when we actually do set up the automatic bank feed so that the transactions automatically come into Xero, or we do manual statement imports for transactions, and they will be transactions after the 31st of March, so from the 1st of April onwards, it means that it'll have a $10,000 balance starting point, so the bank account will actually reconcile. So if we don't put in our opening balance, then the bank account won't reconcile when we bring those transactions in. So if I just quickly flick over to the demo company, so I just want to quickly show you that if it doesn't reconcile, it means that these amounts here, the balance in Xero and the statement balance, will be out. So what we need to do is we need to make sure, I'll just go back to the fake company, and there you can see now we've got a statement balance. So when those transactions come through and we have a Xero balance, once we reconcile them in the system, that statement balance and the Xero balance should always match, because now we have our conversion balance in there. So that's how you set up a bank account and you get your conversion balance in for those bank accounts. I should also point out that it's exactly the same process for any other bank accounts that you've got with your business, and also for other financial products such as credit cards. Next up, we're going to put in our accounts receivable conversion balance. So what we need to do on the main conversion balances screen here is go to the accounts receivable line and put in the total amount of the invoices that are due to us on the conversion balance date, which is the 31st of March in this example. So I'll do a really simple example first, and I'll just say that we've only got one invoice that's owing to us on that particular date, and we'll say it's for $500, and Xero's given us a little question here asking us if this is multi-currency, which it's not, so I'll just get out of there. So once you've actually entered the number in, what you need to do is click on Save, and Xero takes you to a screen where you need to add in the individual invoices. So we're saying we've got $500 owing to us, and now Xero wants to know what invoices actually make up that $500. So just to continue on with the simple example, I'll just pretend it's just one invoice. So I'll click on Add Invoice. And then here in the New Invoice screen, we just need to create the actual invoice that's owing on that date. So I'll just go ahead and put some information in here now. So I've just finished filling out the details of this invoice. So I've chosen the company name there that owes us the money. There's an invoice number. There's an issued date here, which you'll remember our conversion date is the 31st of March. So the invoice needs to be outstanding on that date. So the issued date needs to be before 31st of March. I've just put a due date in there as well, and some particulars down here. It's come up to a total of $550, but that's because of the GST. So I'll just change that tax to be including. So that's now $500, which is how much we set out the total of our accounts receivable was. So that's fine. And then I'll just finish off by marking as done. And that's it. So that's now awaiting payment up here. So I'll just duplicate the screen and go back into advanced and conversion balances. And now if we click on save, so that's confirmed it now. So now we've got $500 in our conversion balance for accounts receivable, and that's matched up to the total of the invoices that are due on that date. So if I go into invoices, we can see here for this particular company, we've just got the one invoice, the one we just created. The due date, the date there of the 17th of March is before the 31st of March. So it's still owing on that date, and the total is $500, which is the total over here. So that's a simple example with just one invoice owing. You'll probably have more than one invoice owing on your conversion date. So what you need to do is put in the full amount of all of the invoices that are due. So if we change that now and we say that's, say, $800 and click save, now it's taken us back to that screen and it's telling us that we're out by $300, which we are. So we've got the $500 invoice in there, $800 worth of accounts receivable. So we need another $300 worth of invoices. So that could be made up of one invoice, it could be made up of a couple of invoices and also credit notes. So we just need to go in and put in another one. So I'll do that now. I'll just click on add invoice. And again, I'll just fill in the particulars. So there it is. I've just put the details in. So we have a $300 invoice now with a date of issue before the 31st of March. So I'll just click done, and then we'll go back to advanced conversion balances. And now it's telling us that we haven't saved it again. So we'll click on save. And there we are. So that's letting us know now that everything is equal. So now we have 2 sales invoices that are outstanding to be received on the 31st of March. They total $800. So we come back over here and click on all. There they are there for $800, and they equal our accounts receivable balance there. So that's how you get your accounts receivable conversion balance into Xero, and how you put the invoices in to get to the total. Next up, we're going to put in our accounts payable conversion balance. So similar to the last lesson on accounts receivable, we just need to put a balance in here. This time it will be in this lesson we're going to put in because it's for bills payable conversion balance on the conversion balance date of the 31st of March. So let's just put in $1,000, and then we'll hit save. And now it's taken us to the screen where we need to enter the actual bill details. So I'll add one bill into this enter bill details screen here. So I'll just create the bill. Okay, so I've just put in some details there. So this is an electricity bill that was issued to us on the 1st of March, and we still hadn't paid it by the 31st of March. So it's a bill that we owe. It's part of our accounts payable on the conversion date. So I'll just hit save. And that's that. So now we've used up $400 of the $1,000. So all we need to do now is just put in some bills to match the other $600. So I'll just do that with one more bill. And I've just put in some details there for monthly rent for $600 in total. So I'll just hit save. And there we are. So now we have 2 bills in there outstanding on the 31st of March that have not been fully paid, giving us $1,000, which equals the accounts payable balance. So that's come up as matched now, and we can click on next. And back now on the conversion balances screen, and that's it. We can see that we've got accounts payable in there, and there's no message telling us that things don't balance. So that's it. So that's all you need to do to put your accounts payable balance in as a conversion balance, and to put in some bills to match the total. Now that we've got our bank account balance and our accounts receivable and payable balances in at the conversion date, we can go ahead and put in our other account balances. So you can put in the rest of your assets and your liabilities, which will be balances on the 31st of March. And you can also put in the totals of your expenses and revenues to date. So that will be the total from the 1st of July to the 31st of March there. So that's for my dates. Obviously, you'll probably have different dates for when you're doing your conversions. But what you really need to do is get a trial balance from your old system and put in the amounts for each account on that particular date. So for this particular example here, what we can do is we can actually bring up all of the general ledger codes that we've got in our chart of accounts by clicking on this show all accounts link. So I'll click on that, and that's brought up all of the accounts in our general ledger. So the first one here, we've got a balance for that, the bank account. And then as we go further down, we can find our accounts receivable and our payable that's already done. And then up here, we've got our revenue and income accounts, cost of goods sold, and then a whole bunch of expense accounts down here. And then further down, we've got some assets and some liabilities. So what I would need to do if I was converting over a business for real is get the trial balance as at the 31st of March and go in and enter all of these amounts. And then when I get down the bottom here, the total debits and the total credits should equal. So what I'll do for this particular exercise is I'll just go in and enter some details, and then we'll come back and have a look at it. Okay, so what I've done is I've just gone through and put some amounts in here, pretending that I've taken a trial balance as at the 31st of March from my old system, and I've just plugged the numbers into here, into Xero. So we've got $500,000 worth of sales there. I've just said there's 200 grand worth of cost of goods sold. I've put in a bunch of amounts here just for the expenses that we've accumulated to date for that particular period. So that's all on the trial balance, including some wages and salaries, and the accounts receivable and accounts payable we already had in there. So I've also said there's 300 grand worth of inventory, and there's a bit of office equipment and computer equipment with depreciation. So I've just put the balance down here to the owner's equity. So basically down the bottom, it gives you the totals, and it gives you a balance if it doesn't balance. So when you're putting this in, you don't actually have to get it to balance in order to click save and then go in and start using Xero. But when you go to do your year-end accounts, you will need your conversion balances to balance. So just for the purposes of this exercise, I've just ignored all these other asset and liability accounts, and I've just put the balance there to owner's equity, just so we can see it all balanced to 682,420 down the bottom. So once we've got all that in, we just click save, and there we can see now the balances are saved for the period 1st of July to 31st of March. And we scroll down the bottom and it's all in balance. So we've got that in there. If you don't want all these lines to show that have nothing in them, you can click on remove Xero balances. And that just brings up the list of conversion balances without any of the other blank lines in there. So that's it. That's all you need to do to finish off your conversion balances in Xero. And once it's in there, you can go ahead and use your accounts knowing that all of your asset and liability accounts are going to balance, and your expenses and revenues are up to date as at the 31st of March. So that's it. That's how you do your conversion balances. Now that we've finished putting in our conversion balances, there's one more thing that we can do, which is to add the comparative balances. So this is not compulsory. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. But what you can do is you can put in some balances for these accounts for the year before you start using Xero, so that you can compare the numbers when you do your reporting. So I'll just duplicate the screen here, and we'll go into the balance sheet report. And what I want to do is run a balance sheet at I'll just go up to the period that we're first using Xero for this company, which is in April. So I'll just click on the 30th of April and update. And there we have our balance sheet as at the 30th of April 2019. So these amounts here are the ones that we put in to our conversion balances. So there's the $10,000 for the bank account, the $800 for accounts receivable, etc. If we go into our settings and we say compare with the previous period, I'll put that back at custom. So that should bring up comparing it to the last financial year at that particular month end. So we're comparing the 30th of April this year, being the first month that we're using Xero, to the 30th of April last year. And we don't have any numbers in there because we weren't using Xero last year, so there's nothing in the system. So to get numbers in there, we need to enter comparative balances. So if we go back here, what we can do is we can add comparative balances to our general ledger codes. And to do that, you just click on the Add Comparative Balances button, and it will bring up the prior year, and then you can go into that prior year and you can add the numbers in here. So they're all zeros at the moment because we haven't put anything in there. And there's another year here. So every time you click on this button, it brings up yet another year in the history there. So you can put in more than 1 year history. So I've clicked on that button 3 times, which is why I've got 3 years of history here. But for this exercise, I'll just show you what happens when you put in some amounts into the year before. So just going back to the first tab, These are the opening balances that we put in. These are the conversion balances. And like I showed you before, the $10,000 for the bank account comes over here, as does the rest of the assets and liabilities into the balance sheet. So what we want to do now is populate this amount here. So if we go to our Comparative Balances tab for that particular year, and we put in, say, $8,000, like that, and we'll scroll down to the bottom and hit Save. Now we'll go back to our balance sheet and we'll hit Update. And that hasn't brought it through because that particular balance here is actually at the 30th of June. So let's change that now. We'll just change that to the 30th of June both years. And there we are. Now we've got $10,000 for this year, and we've got $8,000 at the 30th of June last year. So like I said before, you can actually put in prior years as well. You can put in more than one prior year. So if we go back one more year, we could say that we had $5,000 in the bank at the end of 2017. Click Save. Go back to our balance sheet, and we'll compare it to 2 previous periods. And there's the history there now. So at the 30th of June every year, we've got those balances in there. So you need to do that for all of the accounts and all of the years that you want to have numbers in the Xero system for your reporting purposes. And it's the same procedure for every single account, whether it's an asset, a liability, owner's equity that goes into the balance sheet, or whether they're revenues and expense accounts that go into the profit and loss. So it's exactly the same process. So I don't need to go through and show you everything. You just follow what I've just done in this screen here and save it, and it will flow through to whatever report you need, whether it's the balance sheet or the profit and loss or anything else. So that's it. That's how you do your comparative balances in Xero. Okay, that's it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more free videos, and also check out the links in the description below for our Xero courses. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.